Alright, this is a SciVamp Q&A video part 2. Is that there's a part 2 to this video because I want to be a little bit more specific on types of psychic vampirism. I've run into a couple of people that have had some misunderstandings about what a psychic vampire is. I thought I cleared that up in my first video, but it happens. It's fine. Mostly I just want to get across that just because I'm a SciVamp does not mean that I am the only kind of SciVamp. I'm gonna take another Tic Tac here. I'm not going to cough on you. Or maybe I am. I left my cough drops at work. I'm sorry. I'm getting over a cold and I have very severe asthma as it is. I'm a vampire with asthma. So much fun. Anyway, moving it along nice and briskly. I've talked about people who are unawakened, and I've even done a video on that. But some people refer to that as a symbiotic vampire, and that they're fairly negative. They live off of other people, and not just like ambient feeding where I can just sit there in a crowd and just be like, and not harm anyone, but still obtain the energy that I'm looking for. A symbiotic vampire, an unawakened vampire, is still taking energy from people, but they're usually doing it in a very negative, wounding fashion, which I want to come up with. The next term I have here is a sympathetic vampire, someone who has that wound. They've been overfed on. At times, this is called symptom of the vampire, is that they start developing these SciVamp tendencies. They get cranky, they get hungry, they get their libido gets messed up, they cry for no reason, they are easily excitable, easily emotional, quickly explosive. It just seems like their processing time in their brain has become faster due to emotion, and they can panic. This can be due to compromised barrier, someone negative in their life constantly bashing on those natural shields, traumatizing that person. Maybe they had an incident, something happened, and they have a busted chakra. But there's just something very unhealthy that has become, either was chronic or is becoming chronic. You can also learn SciVampirism to an extent. I'm going to say that, you can learn multiple abilities. Everybody has the option of learning the abilities that a psychic vampire has. The only difference between someone who has those abilities naturally and someone who learns them is that when you have those abilities naturally, they're really hard to turn off. Is that my Vampdar is on 24/7. It doesn't shut off, not even in my sleep. The other day I was with a client. It was like around maybe 11:30, 11:20, and it's like having multiple spider webs from your brain, and all of a sudden you just feel this sort of pulling, almost like someone was pulling my hair, just like one strand, and I can just feel it, and I'm just like doing something, and all of a sudden I'm like, I have to get to my phone. I have to get to my phone right now because I know exactly how someone is feeling, who it is, and I need to say something about it quickly and just, check in with them. It's sort of like a mental version of Lassie. I have a Lassie. it's this sort of connection that I feel this feeling, and I'm just like, what's that, lassie? Timmy's in the well? Oh, I'll go look. Is that you can, to an extent, I know several people who deal with esoteric practices that have learned psychic vampirism to an extent. That this is something they do to amp up their own life force when they're getting ready to do something that is sort of magical in orientation. Sort of like filling a race car with NOS. You know, they require an extra oomph. That is not to say that they do it 24/7, that they can keep doing it. It takes, for them, it takes energy to do it, and they receive energy for it. But it's not something that happens to them 24/7. Just like learning to shield. If you stop thinking about it, your shields go down. That's the way it works. If you fall asleep, your shields go down. That's just the way that is. Even for natural psychic vampires, you know, you fall asleep, your shields go down. Unless you make energy constructs to keep them powered. Another type of vampire is an astral vampire, which has nothing to do with a flesh bag at all. There is a potential that they had a flesh bag at one time, but these things are scary. Whenever I think about an astral vampire, I think about Harry Potter and Dementors. You know, Demento, Demento! And Harry's like, where? And they all laugh. At times, I have witnessed people who desperately want to learn astral projection, and I'm like, slow down, buckaroo. You don't know what's out there. And that's what I'm referring to, is a psychic vampire. I'm a psychic vampire. I astral project. Astral vampires still come after my butt. So, an astral vampire is a non-corporeal psy-vamp. They are not necessarily human. They have not necessarily ever been human. It is simply an entity that is vampiric in nature and wants your energy. They can be tethered to you. They can show up once and never be seen again. Mostly for me, I won't be aware that I'm astral projecting, and I will come back quick, and I'm like, why am I awake? Why am I awake? I need water. I get up. I'm naked. I go to the bathroom. I get a glass of water. I don't even bother looking at the mirror, and I get up. And I'm like, don't drop that glass of water. There's a huge shadow behind you. Holy snap! And then you blink, and it's gone. You're like, what kind of moron doesn't look in the mirror the minute they turn on the light in the bathroom? That's something I would usually do. I felt safe. Overly safe. I wonder why. Oh, that's because I was being stalked by something that was trying to subliminally tell me I was safe. True story. So, that happens. Emotional vampires. The drama queen. We all have one in our life that texts us at 11:45 in the middle of the night and tells us that they're depressed. We all have that person that goes through guys or girls like nobody's business, that always has something to cry about, that exhausts us with their emotions. You try to help them. No, that won't work. You try to help them again. No, that won't work. Well, you shot down all my ideas. Why are you still here talking to me? They want your energy. They leave you exhausted for a reason. They're doing it on purpose. Even if that's accidentally on purpose. An elemental psychic vampire is... Okay, so I have a bit of a teensy problem with these because I've met people that are elemental vampires that claim that they're vampires. I can feed off of like really powerful sources of energy. Usually things like rivers. Is that is just a force that is moving so quickly. You can't do anything but sync up with that. And usually for me, an extremely cleansing experience because everything that is not supposed to be part of me just gets obliterated right through my structure. My structure is very thin. My etheric body is a lot like a spider web that even sitting on like an amp speaker, I can barely handle it because my insides are just waving about. Is it the ones that you really have to watch out for are people that are like, I can feed off the grass and the sunshine and the trees. I'm like, why would you feed off of a tree? They are completely creepy. You never know what's wrong with a tree. You've never met them. Why would you feed off a tree? I know several magically inclined people that put... Ugh, just thinking about it. Trees are nothing but a nice holding cell for you to put things in that can't be recycled. True story. Just so you know. Nature's recycling bin is a tree. I mean, haven't you ever seen one of those trees that you're just like, normal tree, normal tree, normal tree, and then it's like wicked creepy tree in the middle of the forest? You're like, what is that? Why would you feed off of a tree? I just sound like I have a phobia of trees. I have reason to, okay. They're these weird people that are like, I can feed off of sunlight. I'm like, that's good for you. You keep on doing you, and I'm gonna go way over here. Because for me, the common version of psychic vampirism is a pranic vamp, which is me. And I can drop you with a touch. Is that I can put my hand on the back of your neck, squeeze, and just... and you'll feel weak in the knees. I've had people go down that deserved it. People that were gonna make fights for other people and ruin my time. And I was just like, warning you once, going twice, and sold. You're down for the count. So when I come across people who are just elemental vampires, I'm like, I'm not saying you can't be pranic and elemental because that does happen. But being just the one, it might be learned vampirism. And it comes to my last is sexual vampirism, also known as a tantric vampire. If you don't know what I'm referring to, I have a video of psychic versus tantric vampire. I will link that in the description below. And that is a person that predominantly feeds on physical energy. It's not usually always sex, but it's not limited to sex. But sex or sexual energy can be a part of that. Some people have asked me if touch is included in tantric vampirism. Like if you can only feed by touch. I'd say like, maybe just a little bit. It depends on what kind of touch. If I'm having, if I've been introduced to someone for the first time and, I'm in a community safe house and they're just like, hi, my name is such and such and I'd like to be your donor for the next 45 minutes. I'd be like, okay. That would be a person that I would touch. That I would have to probably find their pulse and connect that way, or find an area that was most weakest through their shields. But I would say that a full-blown sexual or tantric vampire would take it a step further. That there would be lots of touching going on. if I felt comfortable in a room with someone that I had just met and I was having a trouble connecting to them and there weren't other people in the room, yeah, I'd probably be startling someone's lap. I'd be like, okay, come on. You know, it gets to be, connecting to someone can be a lot like having trouble opening a can of soda, um, especially if like the tab is missing. Uh, Sometimes people don't have weak spots or spots where they're allowing you to connect. Sometimes you have to ask them, please lower your barriers. They're too tight for me. Or I'm not going to force a connection. You need to relax. Um, I find myself probably more nice than most tantric vampires are going to be. So, you know, people that are well acquainted with each other happen to be a tantric vampire, happen to finally, you know, hook up with their donor. I mean, they're in the bedroom making noise, and I'm just like, should I even be here? So, mainly I wanted to make this video because every once in a while I hear some incredibly anyway. I'm waiting for the siren to pass. I'm sorry. Okay. I think that's far enough away. Is that I get people that I see online who have, it's like they've never cracked a book in their life, and they have sort of this confusion about what psychic vampirism is. I've heard people say psychic vampires aren't real vampires. And I know some sanguinarian that are just like, oh, psychic vampires. God, God bless you guys. God bless you guys and all your problems. But there are more categories of psychic vampirism than there are of sanguinarianism. Sorry. I feel like the people that have problems with psychic vampires that are sanguinarians, that they're usually just sanguinarian. And I feel bad because I ride the fence. I am both. So I sympathize with both parts of the community. Psychic vampires have their own issues, sangs have their own issues, and very rarely do psi vamps have issues with sanguinarians. It's just sanguinarians that usually have problems with psi vamps. It's usually just sanguinarians that are aggressive. Usually they're aggressive because they can't hit the sauce. That's been my experience. So I think that concludes this topic. Hopefully I won't have to say any more on psychic vampirism. But mostly I wanted to make this because people get confused, and just because I'm a psychic vampire does not mean I'm the only kind of psychic vampire. So every once in a while I get approached by people in the community that have these really old notions about topics that have been long dead. This sort of like elitism and almost, I don't know, type of racism has been dead in the community a long time. Every once in a while the topic has a hiccup. And it's strange because I don't know where it's coming from. It's usually the youth that are bringing this forward again. And most of the community members that are well-seasoned veterans have already dealt with this. It's like, we already know about this. We've already dealt with it. You don't need to bring it up again. Is that hybrids fill that gap. And no matter how many times both communities fight over who is the legitimate vampire, there are people like me that are both. And we don't like to get involved in it, but you know, what the things that they say are like, you know, I'm more elite than you are, and I'm more elite than you are, and it's like, you know, we're both part of you, and we're more elite than all of you. I mean, we have vampirism 3 ways to Sunday, and that sucks. I mean, to have multiple hungers really sucks. You can satisfy one and then have to deal with the other 3 days later. I mean, could you imagine being pregnant all the time and craving different kinds of food? You know, today you want Mexican and you have to have it at 3:30 in the middle of the night. And now you need ice cream. That's what it's like. All the time. First you want blood. Then you want energy. Then you want physical energy. Then you want to go outside. That's why this sort of elitism, racism kind of strike is gone. Because there are more people that are hybrids than just individuals. That there are more hybrids than just Psy or just Sang. And that concludes this video. If you still have any questions, please put them in the comment box below. And I think Psychic Vampire is up and running, so shout out to Lono. I will put your link in the bottom description. Have a good night.